inspire, greatness at track number 9. Stay on the right track and let your light shine. Step by step, reach for what's true. Track number 9, your greatness is waiting for you.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, Brother Brock. Good morning to you. Good morning to everybody that decided that they was going to get up this early in the morning and tune in on your cell phones, on your ride to the gym, drinking your coffee, on your laptops, on your computers. Thank you for tuning in to track number 9. Today, man, I got to be honest with you. My spirit is weary, and it's because of so much that's going on in the country, in the state. It is just a whole bunch, man, when it comes to elections, when it comes to wars, when it comes to where will we be tomorrow. All of the stuff that we are seeing today, where will we be tomorrow? Will we even be here? So I am a little good morning, Dewana Farmer, my girl. Good morning. Welcome back to Baltimore. So yeah, I am usually just chipper and bubbly, but I'm also open book. You know, when I'm feeling something, I can't help but show it. It shows in my eyes, it shows in my smile, it shows in my energy. Good morning, Carly. But it's just a lot going on. I've been praying and trying not to worry. And my man, hey, what's up, Rob? Mr. Pittman here. But I've been trying not to worry and trust in God that He's going to work this out, whether it's, a war, whether it's elections, whether it's crime, whatever it is. Hey, sister, hi, Patrice. But one thing that I know is that it always leads back to the ballot. All of this stuff, whether it's the high price of prescription drugs, whether it's money for your schools, whether it's the red line, are we going to have good transportation here? It is it always leads back to the ballot. I'll just say that everything that we see going on, it leads back to the ballot. Good morning, Kiki. Beth is here. Hi, my friend from Montgomery County. But anyway, I'm gonna go ahead because I'll be going on and on and on about my feelings and how worried I am about the state of the nation and our city and our state. But I want to go down this litany of information concerning our next guest. Our guest was born in 1948 in Baltimore City, educated in Baltimore City Public Schools, Forest Park, class of 67, Morgan State University, career salesman and community coordinator, worked at one place, P. Flanagan, for 50 years, the same company. He was worked with a company called Shavitz and Sons. Man, this guy has really been working. I'm telling you, but wait till you hear about all of the things that he's done. This is his timeline. Warehouse, 69 to 74. Salesman, 74 till I guess recently. Co-founded 100 Black Men of Maryland. Eastern Regional Vice Director, Phi Theta Kappa, Phi Beta Sigma. He was a member of the Municipal and Zoning Appeals. He was an alternate member for Baltimore City Property Tax and Assessment Appeals, elected chair of Baltimore City Democratic State Central Committee, and automatically becomes a first vice chair. He ran for city council, the 4th district. He lost that to that incumbent to Bill Henry. He was appointed by Governor Martin O'Malley to the Maryland House of Delegates in the 43rd district in 2011, declined to seek election to keep, the seat, and ran again for city council in the 4th district. To 2013, as the Democratic State Central Committee chair, he oversaw an appointed process to fill the legislative vacancy left by Miss Anne Marie Doherty. Yeah, that was the correction we made. He ran again for first vice chair, Democratic Party. Let's see, the community and fraternity affiliations. Co-founded 100 Black Men, former president of the Northeast Community Organization, former chair of the Northeast Citizens United, board of directors for the Northeast Development Alliance, Board of Directors, Senator Community Trust. He was a member of the Urban League. I gotta flip the page. Wow, man. Member of the NAACP. Of course, I mentioned the Phi Beta Sigma and Prince Hall Mason. This guy has done so much. So I want to bring to you a guy that has been in service his whole life, somebody that we want to welcome, because this is a time when we look to leadership, and leadership don't always mean, somebody that's currently in office. Leadership is people who are right in your community. So please bring on our guest, Mr. Sherrod Bonds. I'm so glad that we were able to get him here. I cannot believe you have done so much. You have done, Shante. Oh
A
man.
lot in my young age.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Hi, Michelle Madison. Good morning. I just like to always welcome our guests because I appreciate it. We one big family over here. So I want to start this morning with a question that most people, answer. If your state delegate resigned tomorrow, if they took another job, became ill, passed away, or had to step down, who would pick that replacement?
Members of in Baltimore would be the members of the Baltimore Democratic State Central Committee will suggest and make a recommendation to the governor.
Yes, sir. The State Central Committee. And full disclosure, I am a member of Baltimore City State Central Committee for the 40th District. I was elected in 2018. And as I like to mention, they didn't get enough of me. They wanted some more. So they elected me again in 2022. And naturally, I'm running again for re-election to Baltimore City State Central Committee. So my name will be on the ballot for those who live in the 40th District. But there's so much that's been going on with our State Central Committee, because at one time, the State Central Committee, people knew that it existed, but for the past decade or so, it has really become the top of mind for some people. I know when I got on there in 2018, I kind of, they call me a little rebel rouser. I kind of shook things up a little bit. And I had ran to be the chair of the Central Committee, and letting people know, hey, this is who I am. I have the lived experience in these communities, and I'm capable of leading. But that aside, man, we have so many people that's throwing their hat in the State Central Committee. The brother, my good brother out there in Prince George's County, Turner Bay, he just announced that he would be running. Hey, Johnny Jones, good morning. My man from Living Classrooms. But Turner Bay just announced that he was going to be running out there in Prince George's County. So I think that is like, wow, that's amazing. And a lot of folks are returning citizens. So that's a blessing. Hey, Jerome from down the Eastern Shore tuning in. We got them from all over the state, brother. But it's a lot of people who are formerly incarcerated. Hey, LaKenda. Hey, yeah, a lot of people are, coming home from incarceration, and they are seeking office, which again, that is something that happened, at the ballot. At the ballot, there have been a push for voting rights for people who are formerly incarcerated. And if it was not for those laws being passed, none of us would be able to run for office. So always got to talk about that vote in that ballot box. But Senate Bill 5, I do want to discuss that just a little bit, because I know you said that you have been following that. Senate Bill 5 is a bill that's being heard in Annapolis now, and it's requiring a special election. They have to make an actual constitutional amendment, because the operation of the State Central Committee falls under Article 3, Section 13 in the Maryland State Constitution. So they are suggesting to make an amendment to our state constitution so that they can take the power from the State Central Committee to appoint vacancies. For instance, like you had mentioned, if somebody becomes sick or ill and can no longer fulfill their duty, whether they be a delegate or a senator, then the State Central Committee will appoint a leader. And now they have the Senate Bill 5, if you guys want to look that up, where they trying to remove the power from the State Central Committee and have special elections. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, it's a couple of things with that, Monica. It's so funny that this bill is going to exist by certain delegates and senators, uh, with the full knowledge that some of them got the position they got by being appointed or being nominated by the State Central Committee in their particular locale. And so it's so funny. That's the only perk that I have seen that the State Central member gets by being a State Central Committee member, knowing that let's go back for a second to who are the State Central Committee? What are their duties? They're the foot soldiers of in our case, in Baltimore City, and of the Democratic Party. They're the foot soldiers. They're the ones who go out there, beat on the doors, campaign for elected officials, walk the streets, do both voter registration in their particular jurisdictions. They're the foot soldiers. They're bound and committed to the Democratic Party. In the primary, they can individuals can support particular personalities, but when it comes to the general election, they are 100% behind the nominee, regardless if they support him or not. They're the foot soldiers and should help every Democrat, regardless of what position they're running for, get elected in November.
Yes, sir.
Let me say this one thing, add this. There's a misnomer by a lot of people who are running for State Central Committee. You're not legislators. That's the key thing. You do not make policy. You carry out the policy of the Democratic Party set down by the state party. But you're not legislators. A lot of folk get this position. They come in and think they can change the world, change legislation just by their vote. They do not do that. They don't have the power to make legislation. They help to carry out the legislation.
Well, thank you for that information, because my view of the Central Committee is that you do have some really committed persons. Let me also say, number one, this is a bipartisan show.
Right.
We don't care what party you're from. We don't care if it don't matter your party affiliation, because they do have the Republican Central Committee as well. So both parties have a Central Committee. So it's not just, the Democrats, both parties do.
Yeah.
And that is
the only key to that is the Democratic Party, each legislative district has the opportunity to select 8 individuals. Republican Party, they are selected every district has a representative. So they are not as large as the Democratic State Central Committee. But this conversation should be bipartisan in its nature. So because every vote counts.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I agree. I want to thank Delegate Addison. We have Delegate Addison that has joined us. And Delegate Addison, if you want to add to this conversation, just definitely add something to the chat, and we'll make sure to mention it. We have Dr. Lamb. Dr. Lamb is here. She is a wonderful woman that provides training to formerly incarcerated people, financial literacy, and she helped them to establish their businesses. Hey, Brother Dale, he's here. And people need to know this information concerning the State Central Committee, because these folks could potentially elect or select our leadership. Our brother Malcolm Ruff, I believe, had been appointed. There's so many people in leadership. I believe our former mayor, Catherine Pugh, came through the Central Committee and had gotten an appointed position. Our Congressman Kwesi Mfume, he actually served on the State Central Committee. So a lot of folks do come and join the State Central Committee, and they have political aspirations, if you will. Some people are in the space to be able to say that I was here and I'm gonna move up to here, I'm gonna move up to here. Like serving on the state central committee is a notch in some people's belt. And their mind and everything in there, everything they do is towards their political aspirations. And then you have some people like yourself who have served, or like our current chair, Sister Tammy Stinnett, who are there to actually serve the people and to actually do the bidding of the people and to make sure that that thing runs efficiently. So my hat goes off to all. I don't knock nobody for having political aspirations, and I certainly don't knock anybody for being a part of the state central committee to serve. I know myself, I am there, and hopefully will be reelected for the people. I don't have any political aspirations. God knows if they had me down there, boy, they would be sick of me in Annapolis. I would bring home the money. I would bring it home. I don't care who I had to run over to get it for my people. But anyway, I want to kind of turn our focus on some of your successes. You were the co-founder of 100 Black Men. What was that like, and how did that come about? Because we don't want to go belabor the point of the state central committee, but I definitely want to hone in on that, and I want to lead up to what you currently do. But I'm curious about 100 Black Men. How did that come about?
Well, Monica, I had a mentor, my fraternity brother, Dr. Gilbert Daly. And back in those days, when I was coming up, and I'm pretty sure a lot on the phones coming up, you didn't ask or question where you're going. They'd say, "Come on, let's go," and you jump in the car and we go. As you know, Dr. Daly was a professor at Coppin State University, now college then, and he told me, "Come on, take a ride with him." And when Dr. Daly told you to come somewhere, something's up, but you didn't know what until you got there. So he took me to this meeting with the other men who was in the room, and that's how I got involved in the co-founding the 100 Black Men of Baltimore.
Okay. Yeah, well, I know we have groups now like We Our Us and I think Safe Streets and different organizations here in Baltimore. My guy, Bobby Pittman, he has an organization that he just started to help, work with youth. And it's a lot of, hi, Giselle. Giselle is here. But he has an organization that's working with young people as well. Because, man, we just had a shooting down at the Baltimore Inner Harbor last Sunday. And that was amazing. That was amazing. I'm telling you, I was like, man, why in the world are these children shooting in broad daylight? That's crazy. So we pray for those young people, and we pray that those organizations and those groups can reach them. But again, that still leads back to the ballot box because they need funding. And I love the governor, man, is a good dude. I really like the guy. He recently approved for the Baltimore Orioles to get this huge score board that cost millions of dollars. And he had talked about it on opening day. And, like me and my good friend, Montgomery County, she shared with me, and I thought about it. I was like, that you spent money, hundreds of millions of dollars on this big scoreboard when the owners of the Orioles are damn near billionaires. They could have bought their own. So even, some people, you're just not right on all things. That's all. And we just need leadership that's willing to stand up and actually say it. Say, hey, I appreciate you. I like you, but that was wrong. We used to have more accountability. We used to be more willing to speak to leadership and say, hey, man, that right there that you're trying to do, we don't agree with that. Or what you're trying to do over here, we are totally against that. We appreciate it if you would switch gears. And the leadership would listen because they knew that the people had the power of the vote and they could take them out of there. But now, because of people, the statisticians, they look at the numbers and they say, well, over here, 21217, we only got 300 people that vote. Over here in 21229, we only got 200 people that vote. But when we get over here on this side of town, 3,000 people vote. That's where they spend their money, their time, and their efforts. So the power that communities used to have, they don't necessarily have it anymore because they have been convinced that your vote don't count. They have been convinced that you don't have any power. When, if you look at the numbers, the people who do the most voting, they get the most resources. So I just wanted to mention that your role right now, you are currently, and of course the conversation is bipartisan. You are currently the president of the Baltimore City Board of Elections, right?
Yes.
Okay. What do you do there as the president of the Board of Elections? I know was it the gentleman that used to be there? His name was
He passed.
Armstrong.
Jones.
Yes,
Armstead Jones. Yeah.
Armstead. Yes, sir.
Armstead Jones.
Well, he was
No,
there for many a years, man. You got
he
some big
was
shoes
there.
to fill.
He was
He was
there
there
for, well, put things in perspective. I'm president of the board. The board is made up of 5 individuals because of whoever the governor is gets 3 picks and the other party gets 2. But right now there's 3 Democrats and 2 Republicans that make up the board. The day-to-day operations go to the Baltimore City Board of Director of the elections, which is right now Mr. Clifford Tatum. We just brought him on board this year to not following the footsteps, but take the position from that we had open with the loss of Armstead Jones. So the board president just helps and assists the staff and the director in the operation of the office, but the day-to-day control and of the operation of the office is under the auspices of the executive director, Mr. Tatum. The board meets once a month and deals with issues that come up before the board or that the executive director brings us. We came in 3 years ago, so we will have to come again. That's a position that is presented by the State Central Committee, make recommendations to the governor who's to serve on that board. And so next year sometime we'll be coming before the State Central Committee, those who wish to serve in those positions before the State Central Committee, and they will make their recommendations to the governor.
And do you guys set the rules and the standard? Like right now, throughout the country, they have this Save America Act. And the Save America Act is a federal bill that would require people to have a license when they register to vote or attempt to vote. But it's got like a whole bunch of other stuff in there that I haven't read. That's the one thing that kind of sticks out in my mind when it comes to elections. The other thing that sticks out in my mind is that here in Maryland, I believe it was the 2018 the presidential election that had taken place and the gubernatorial election that was taking place, but they had a company here in Maryland that had their machines hacked. But what happened was they reported that they saw that there was some people trying to go through the back door of their server, but they weren't able to change election results. Maryland was a part of that. There have been states in the country where some outside entity had been trying to hack the voting machines to change the election results. Whether they've been successful in other places, who knows? But I know here in Maryland, it was reported that they weren't successful. And I wonder, what does voter protection look like? How do Maryland make sure that they stay on top of every vote being counted? Because there have been, like in the past, there have been people who claim that votes were found in the basement of churches, some of our mayoral races that had taken place in the past. Then some of them had a rumor saying the people who were counting the votes, they weren't counting them. They would say they were spoiled ballots, and we ended up with one mayor over the other. And of course, we mentioned no names or no parties, but they had said that the vote wasn't bubbled in enough, or they made a mistake on it, called it a spoiled ballot, and it wasn't counted. And then you have the provisional ballots when people go to the wrong voting place. Now, to my knowledge, the provisional ballots may or may not be counted. So I said a whole lot. Help us with that. I know, right?
Well,
You know,
no,
I can talk, brother. One thing about me, I can talk, baby.
that's no problem at all. First and foremost, let's get a good understanding that anything to Baltimore City or any of the other 24 municipalities does with the elections come from the state. We are part of a state entity. So the State Board of Elections will give us the guidelines, the rules, the procedures to follow during the elections. We have to understand last year, when we come to the provisional ballots, I think you were corrected. A lot of people, and it could be our fault in part that we're not communicating properly. They'll go early voting. You have to understand you can go anywhere and vote. During the general election, you have to go to your precinct to vote. They're no longer, if you go to a voting location that's not on your normal voting location on election day, they'll give you a provisional ballot. They're not saying you can vote, but this is an option if you do not want to go back across town to vote. So that was a big issue in the last election, the provisional ballots. Baltimore City had quite a few of them. And a lot of them is because the people did not go to their regular voting place or miscommunication. We as a board of elections have to do a better job in communicating to our electorate where your vote is, where you're going to vote. Baltimore, we got two locations. We got a new location at BCCC, which we didn't have before. And by state law, it mandates and dictates how many early voting sites you can have. We were at 6, now we're at 8 because we had to go through the process of getting it approved by the State Board of Elections to do such. So that's how that operates. Communication is going to be better this cycle due to the implementation from the Baltimore City side of better communicating outreach to our citizens. We have the office and the staff now doing, you can call for an invite to your community meetings. You can have a conversation one-on-one with the new executive director. He's open, and we have been to all parties, all entities who would like for us to come make a presentation. We're even engaging the young people through the school system in helping us go through this process of getting out the vote and communicating better with the constituency in Baltimore City. So I think we're doing a heck of a job doing better, building on what we find some of the mistakes are under our new leadership.
But that's a good thing, because in the past, some of the because my organization, we make sure we get people to the polls. We pick up older people who can't get around as much. So we work with organizations like Common Cause, another bipartisan organization that makes sure that people get out and vote. We don't care, again, it's bipartisan. It don't matter to me who you vote for. We want to make sure that people get out and vote. And one of the things that have been happening is that polling places have been closing down, and the neighborhood hasn't been informed. You know what I mean? And the older people in that community that's nearby or whatever have been having haven't had an issue of not being informed that their voting poll had closed down. And unfortunately, I won't say that has happened here in Maryland, but throughout the country, because people are intentionally trying to keep folks away from voting. So in different places, whether it's Texas or wherever it is, they will intentionally send what they call a robocall. They had an election that happened here before where people will call and say it's no need to come and vote. The election had been decided, or they'll send a fake robocall to your phone and say that, the polls are now closed, and it could be 7 o'clock. Polls might not close until 8. So it's so much mischievous stuff that's going on about the elections. And these elections now are going to get closer and closer. And I think that's why we always say that every vote count. I remember listening to the Congressman Kwesi Mfume talk about he won an election with 2 votes. There was a 2 vote difference. When you get that close, of course, they have an automatic recount and everything. I think some stuff happened in Georgia, Fulton County, Georgia. They still going through stuff from a previous election. But because all this stuff is going on, I think that's why there is this push to say, every vote count, and folks need to get out, and do something. So that's why I appreciate the work of Mr. Bonds and the Board of Elections to make
Monica,
sure everybody has a chance to vote.
Monica, let me say something to interject, and this is very important to everyone who's listening. We need to get the word out.
Yes, sir.
If you're not aware, the post office has gotten a new rule in reference to a lot of, especially our seniors, mail-in the ballots. And because of the post office new rule on mailing, you have to make sure, if you're going to mail in your ballot, you need to mail it at least a week before the deadline, because you no longer can take a piece of mail into the post office and get it stamped that day. It might get stamped 2 days later. And when it arrive at the Board of Elections and it don't have the proper stamp, they may discard it. So we're encouraging and we're communicating and will be communicating to our electorate and to our voters to, if you're going to do a mail-in ballot, mail that ballot at least a week before the deadline to drop it into the post office, because it may or may not be postmarked. If the deadline is the 24th and you put it in the 24th, in the mail the 24th, it may not be postmarked the 24th, and it may be put aside if it's postmarked 2 or 3 days later. So I think communication will be coming out about that all across the country here. And we're going to inundate our public in reference to the new decision by the U.S. Post Office to not same date mail.
Okay, well, Delegate Roxanne Prettyman just tuned in. Man, a wonderful representative in the 40th district, a leader in her church. Oh man, Miss Joyce is here. Hey, she said, "Good morning, gorgeous." I think she made me, brother.
Yeah, that's okay.
Good morning, Miss Joyce. That's my girl. Miss Sarah Matthews is on here as well. Appreciate you, Sarah Matthews. But you had mentioned about the postmark on the let me see, I got an envelope right here on the envelopes. One of the things that the SAVE Act is trying to do is they're trying to say that we will no longer count your vote if we don't receive it on election day. Let's say November 4th, 2026. They have to have it. The rule used to be as long as it was postmarked by election day, then they would count it. So it has to be in the mail and on their desk. At one point, I think in the state of Pennsylvania, they were actually trying to say, if we can't count all these votes on election day, we're not counting no more. They wanted to actually stop counting them. And it's impossible to count all those votes on election day because you receive hundreds of thousands of them on election day. So sometimes that's why we don't see the results until, they say it's too close to call. It's too close to call. It's too close to call. You might learn about that race the next day. Some races you might not learn for a week. I know here in District 8, Councilman Parrish Gray was running. I think it was Brother Bilal. Bilal Ali was running in District 8. This is the most recent election. And at one point, Councilman Gray was up by 50 votes. Then the more of them came in, and then Bilal Ali was up a few. And we didn't find out about these races recently, right here in Baltimore, until days. I mean, I think that was a whole week, because sometimes that's how long it takes to count them. They start to trickle in, the votes start to trickle in. And I don't know what would happen if it became a federal law that we are no longer counting your votes if we don't get it on election day. I know my grandmother, I miss that lady, 95 years old. She passed away last February. But she always voted by mail. My grandmother voted until her very last breath. She wasn't playing. She would make, even from the bed, she made sure that she got her ballot. And I think that speaks volumes to our ancestors and how important it is to actually vote. But I don't think that people can imagine what it was like when you wasn't able to vote. People just earned the right to vote most recently. It was almost like yesterday. I don't think a person can imagine what it's like to have a legislative body say that the law states that you can't drink out this water fountain. These are policies. This was policies the lawmakers made. The law states that you cannot go to the same schools as other people. This was legislators. This was policy. These were people who were elected that put these rules into place. And I think people take it for granted, your vote, and what that means to be able to at least be free to move the way you want to move. Because if you lose, and the 1965 Voting Rights Act, that comes up ever so often to say, okay, we're going to let them vote. It still is not nullified in the law that certain members of society actually have the right to vote. Every once in a while, they have to re-vote on it again. So it's just a matter of one vote that says that you can no longer vote. And that means that you will leave your life and your community, what happens to you and your children, up to somebody else. And if history is any indication, I don't think we want to do that. Because if the law would allow certain people, yeah, you wouldn't be able to go to them schools. It would happen again, and I'm saying it. Yeah, you wouldn't be able to live in certain communities. It would happen again in case people are not paying attention. So your vote is not only to choose your leader, but it's to help keep those things in place that's in place. And it's really, really, really important, if you will. Now, yeah, I'm a chatterbox. I can't help it. So I know, right? I can't help it. I love to talk, man. I'm interested too in everybody that's listening here. Do you vote? And if not, why? I want to see some of them in the comments, because one thing that we had battled with Mr. Armstrong, rest his soul, Armstrong Jones, and the Board of Election is that they had refused to put on the anything that says that formerly incarcerated people now have the right to vote. They just would not do it. And the information that they added on the website was so vague that people still thought it was illegal for people with a record to actually vote. We had battled with them back and forth, back and forth. One of the things we had proposed was to say, well, when people register to vote, can we ask them, are you formerly incarcerated? And that was something that they weren't willing to do, because I think they said that it was a privacy thing or whatever. But trying to get ex-offenders to understand that they have the right to vote in Maryland, man, we're talking about hundreds of thousands of people. We had one election with, what's the lady name? Stephanie Rawlings Blake. That was one of the lowest voter turnouts in the history of the city. And if returning citizens had exercised their right to vote, they could have determined who would have been in office. Like the voting blocks. You have the LGBTQ voting block. Older people are definitely the voting block. Older people vote. That's why they have that Souls to the Polls Sunday. One thing you can depend on is older people are going to vote. Younger people, it's hard to get to them, but creating those voting blocks had been an interest of my man Bobby Pittman said he voted for the first time in 2024. I appreciate that, Bobby. Keep voting, baby. But to get the information out to returning citizens, do you have any suggestions on a role that the Board of Elections could play to help get that information out without invading people's privacy? Because I think it's a good idea on
Well,
a application to say, have you ever been, incarcerated?
great question.
Mm-hmm.
I would encourage anyone. We don't have all the answers.
Mm-hmm.
So we encourage, and if you go to our website, those are the kind of issues you can address to us and we'll give you our answer. If you have an idea that we are not implementing, call us, meet with us, give us your idea. We don't have all the answers, and I always say to people, the best way to learn something is to go to the people who do it.
Mm.
So you're in the field, and you what part of your platform and so that your duty is to help incarcerated people get votes. I think there's a process. I think there's a mechanism that we do. But for your clarity and for anyone else who's on the call who has questions of that nature, call us, email us, go to Baltimore City elections.gov and put into the chat what your question is and see what your answer is. And if it's not something you're satisfied with, just ask for a meeting with the executive director and let's put it on the table. Like I said before, we don't have all the answers. We're looking for ways to improve voting turnout in Baltimore City.
Mm.
So I would encourage everyone to do that. Reach out, and if you don't get, if the office don't respond to you, call me or email me direct, and I'll go right to the executive director and say, why hasn't this email been responded to?
Okay, I definitely appreciate that. I'm gonna send you an email Monday morning. First thing Monday morning, because I do feel like the Board of Elections could do more in terms of outreach.
And I'm
Of,
not saying they're not doing it now.
Understand?
That's a good question. That's something I'm gonna look into Monday morning too. But I'm saying we can do better if there's another way to do it.
Yeah, I just noted that language concerning formerly incarcerated people and their voting rights have been so vague that people still think that it's illegal. It doesn't make it clear that they have. The other thing is Janelle Wilkins out of Montgomery County, Delegate Janelle Wilkins, and even the Republican Christopher West that represents Towson and portions of, or just before where you get from Baltimore into the county, bipartisan partnership and working with several bills that have been passed concerning returning citizens, ex-offenders, formerly incarcerated people, and their right to vote. I think that the Board of Elections should take those bills and take some language and actually add it to the website so people can see that this is now law. In 2016, in March, the Baltimore Sun had printed an article, March the 16th, 2016, and it said formerly incarcerated people win their right to vote or whatever. They were expecting 40,000 newly registered voters to show up and vote because the law had passed that once you return from incarceration, your voting rights are automatically restored. That's whether you're on parole, whether you're on probation, whether you served 100 years. So everybody that comes out of Department of Corrections, Jessup, Eastern Shore, the halfway house on Greenmount Avenue, as soon as you are physically free and able to walk into the booth, your voting rights are automatically restored. You don't have to do anything. All you have to do is register and go and vote. and people still don't know that. You know what I mean? So I think that law, the synopsis of that law should be on the Board of Elections website. And I'm gonna hit you up on Monday because I think the efforts to reach returning citizens would create this voting block, but it will also help our communities. When you go into 21217, 21229, and in those places, the majority of the, well, not majority, but a lot of the people, I'll say a lot of the people have been impacted by the criminal justice system. So you're not going to get a high voter turnout in that community, especially if they don't know that they can vote. So I think in terms of increasing voter turnout and everything, I think that would be a great idea. And if anybody want to join me in that meeting, just put your information in the chat because I'm certainly going to try to ask for a meeting, and I'm going to be nice. I'm going to be nice. I'm learning how to be a little more diplomatic in my approach because when I first got elected in 2018, I was fire. Oh man, they could not control me. They couldn't hold me. They'd be like, Monica, please just sit down for me. I'd be like, no, wait a minute. That's not what we do. I used to be off the chain. However, praise God.
Well,
Amen.
Monica, we are stepping up our efforts at taking that the data you just spoke about and looking at our low turnout communities, districts, and we're stepping up our efforts to reach out to those communities on a why don't you, or this is the process, or where the voting place is not convenient, or what have you. One of the biggest things we did this year was in the northwest part of the district, and then the 40th, 41st, we opened up the BCCC voting location, which is a larger location to go to. But we are stepping up our efforts in those low turnout areas with mailers and communication to try to increase voter registration and voter turnout in those particular areas. But like I said before,
well, I think that's
Baltimore City Board of Elections.gov. And if you don't see what you're looking for, you saw my email. Just drop me a line, and I will get with the executive director to find out if we do, and if not, why not.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, I certainly appreciate that. Hey, Michelle Madison, but also I think that I think that when we look at the census tract, which is another issue that communities have, they don't like filling out the census. I know when I was little and they had sent the census around, I was actually scared. I was scared because I thought the people were getting information in our communities to come and do something to us. And I don't know where I got that from. Oh, Johnny Jones said that he makes sure that he get his whole family out to vote. And that's how that should be. He said the first Monday Empowerment Temple Support Group has Miss Leah Green as their Freedom of Family annual cookout registration table, which is awesome. Yeah, they have a cookout. Oh, the Living Classroom Brothers and Johnny Jones and his folks, they have a cookout out at Drew Hill Park every year for returning citizens. And Miss Leah Green of Maryland Cure, she sit out there and register people to vote. And that's how we supposed to do that. We supposed to make sure that we are registering people to vote. The children in our house, if we going to vote, we supposed to make them go with us. If you 8, 10, 12, 14, get off the game, put the phone down. You're going with me to vote so that they can actually see you, because that's what, I experienced that. So I grew up loving the idea of voting. When I first came home and I voted, I put that sticker in the middle of my head. Like I was one of them Indians. I put it right in the middle of my head and I took a picture of myself. I was so happy because when I was on the inside, I kept on saying, God, I want to be able to vote so that I can have power over my life. Because when you're on the inside, they say, lay down, Monica, get up, turn that TV off, move this way, be quiet, lower your voice. That's what happens. You have no power. So your power is taken away from you. So I always see the vote as my power. It's something to make me feel like I have control over my life. It's nothing worse than feeling like you at the Jones River, like you just like you have no power. They say go with this man, go with that man. We're gonna sell your children, we're gonna sell your mother, and what can you do about it? Nothing. Powerless. And that's how it made me feel when I was behind a wall. It made me feel like I had no power. So when I came home, man, I got that damn voting card. I was like, boy, it felt like I had $1 million credit limit. I felt like I had a brand new credit card. But anywho, I was going to say that one of the things that also impede our communities is doing those census and filling them out. When I was younger, they had a census tract that went around and they asked you what type of stove do you use? Do you use gas? Do you use? And I thought that was the strangest question for them to ask. I was like, man, these people might come and try to exterminate us. I always had that crazy mindset. Does that determine where you're going to open up the voting registration places? Like what determines the where you're going to shut down the voting places? Is it the census and amount of population that's in that community? Or like you said, do you look at the data and say, well, not that many people voted over here, so we're going to shut this place down, and more people voted over here, so we're going to open this up? How do y'all make the decision of where you're going to open up a voting poll at, or where you're going to shut a voting poll down?
Well, it's two things to that, Monica. Was different things to it. One is population um, turnout.
Mm,
One is need. We try to get a key location that, is, especially when it comes to our seniors, get a location that is geographically in the area where the majority of the people live or can have access to mass transportation and things of that nature. Um, we have changed locations based on turnout. We have opened up places because the community asked, hey, you get more turnout here than you get there. Out, we are only allowed by state law to have 8 early voting places.
mm.
When it comes to general election, we have over 200 voting places in around the city. And but such certain things when it comes to early voting, we are dictated by state law to have so many. Like I said, we just requested last year to get 2 more because of geographical area and population, and they granted that. That has to be approved by the state. I would ask and encourage anybody on this line or who would like to do voter registration in their communities to reach out to the Baltimore City Board of Election to get resources. We have staff that will help come out and help you. We have materials that will help you do voter registration. So I would encourage everyone to reach out to the Board of Elections and give them a heads up that you're doing voter registration or you would like to do voter registration. And as if a staff person is available, we will come out and surely assist in doing that.
Okay, well, that's certainly the people who are listening. That's certainly one way that you can participate and help increase this voter turnout by getting the training, and you can actually get trained to register people to vote yourself. And one of our listeners asked a question to advertise. She says, Ms. Sarah Matthews says, please advertise the place setter policy for older adults. What's the place setter policy for older adults?
That's how she can enlighten me on that one. I'm not aware of that one.
Miss Sarah, drop it in the chat. So yeah, but we here on track number 9 to get us all on the right track so we can be connected and we learn. You know, we gather information here. We share information that people can use. Yeah. So Miss Sarah, definitely drop that in the chat, and it's called the place setter policy for older individuals. Because I know, like, when it came to older folks, I had taken a lady to the polls. Sister Robin in the 40th district, Robin Boston,
Robin
had
Boss.
contacted me and said, this lady needed a ride, and the sister was she was impaired. She was visually impaired, so she had a little cane, and I had to help her, out of the vehicle, and she was able to go in there, and they had a special provisions for her so that she can vote. Which again, I appreciate that. People that might be hearing impaired, people that might be visually impaired. I think it's really good that they accommodate people. Now, I do think they can do better in terms of handicap access, like ramps and stuff like that. I think that the polling places, if I had to make yet another suggestion, even though ain't nobody paying me for all these suggestions, they just suggestions. I wish I was getting paid. They call that a consultant. I need a couple of dollars for that. But I think that if I had to make a suggestion to the board, it would be to make sure that they have more access at those polling places for people who are wheelchair bound or that can't quite get up those steps and whatnot, or they might need an elevator. You
Let
know.
let me let me say this, Monica.
Mm-hmm.
We are bound that the locations we seek for voting are ADA compliance.
Okay.
We by law we have to make sure they're compliant. If there's a location that someone goes to that's not wheelchair compliant, we need to know about it. But
Mm-hmm.
by law, we should, in every place we utilize, should be wheelchair compliance. And let's keep in mind, Baltimore City, a lot of the places we use, we have to school buildings or places that are agreed to let us use those locations for 7 days without without us paying an enormous amount. But every place, to my knowledge, is wheelchair compliance in accordance to the ADA law. And if there's one that is not, we need to know about it.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Because of course, you have things that are the law, but don't necessarily always, get followed. Do you guys actually? Let me see. Oh, that's my girl. Hey, Charlie. She says, do they still offer curbside voting for people with mobility issues? Is there a curbside voting process too?
Other th- when you say curbside, does that mean dropping someone off at the door at the curve? If that's what they mean,
I don't know. Sister asked about curbside voting. Because again, I've been to some places where they, the folks that I had taken to the polls had, a little difficulty. Do you guys actually go out and see the place beforehand?
oh yeah, our staff has to go
Okay.
out and make sure everything's compliant before we approve it or the state approves it. That is that is handicap accessible and meet the guidelines set by law.
Oh, okay. My good friend Michelle Johnson, my home girl, we went to Job Corps together. She says, "What is Mr. Bond's first name? You want to tell her your first name?"
Sherrod, Scherod.
She says she admire you for the work that you've done with 100 Men.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, and my sister Charlie says they used to have people come to the curb
Yeah,
side.
I'm looking
Yeah,
at that, and you know what? I'm gonna look into
that's
that
pretty
Monday
cool.
morning. I'm gonna look
That's
into
pretty
that.
cool.
I'm gonna look into that Monday morning.
Yeah, that would be great if you could actually have, because I know they have tablets where people can come out and do that. Would be good. People who can't necessarily go up steps, do a lot of walking or whatever. That would be great if somebody could actually come out and do the curbside thing. The other thing is, because we winded down on our time, everybody that's listening, please, please, please become an election judge. Every year they have a shortage of people who are they need election judges. That was one of the first things I did too when I came home. I needed them little few bucks they gave me, and plus I was happy to be a part of the process. Being a part of a democratic process is just so empowering. I can't even really put it into words, but definitely become an election judge. All are welcome. All are
And
welcome to become trained election judges.
in that process, Monica, is going to start soon. Again, you can go onto our website and apply. We're in dire need of Republican
Mm,
judges. We're in dire need of Republican judges. So
mm,
if you so desire to be a judge, if you're Republican, Democrat, whatever the party affiliation, um, go online tomorrow, today,
mm.
and apply to be a judge. It pays $250 to $300. Um, and I think that's a day. And for those who
Hey,
just sit,
hold on. I might take a day off. How much you say I pay
it starts off at 250
a
uh,
day?
a day. And
Two
chief
hundred fifty
judges,
dollars a day?
yeah, but it's an all day job now.
Can I do it for the entire primary? Let's say if I
You,
wanted to work every
you
day. The
have to,
primary is what,
you have,
7 days?
yeah, you can't pick and choose the days. You have to do it for the whole cycle.
So for the whole 7 days, I would have to work.
You have 7 days you have to work. But again, all that information is on our website. You can apply. Training, I believe,
Hmm.
starts next week in a few weeks. So you like to get on board. Training is about 4 to 5 hours one day. You get paid for that one day for 4 hours, 3 to 4 hours. You sit there and learn the process, and then they will assign you a location, not necessarily in your backyard or next to you, but they'll assign you a location somewhere in the city so you can to post you where you can go assist in getting out the vote. Well, voter
Hey,
registration
that's what's
process.
up. Hey, brother, do you think you could send me a link that I could send out to people? My sister, Kylie Thomas, says, Monica, please get me that information.
Yeah,
And
I will
I
send you. I'll send you something when we get off. But anyway, I can go right to our website, and forms and everything are right there.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Becoming an election judge. I want to thank Sister Denise. That's the chaplain in West Baltimore. Denise Reed. That's my girl. But I'm going to ask this one more time for some clarity because I'm willing to take. So I got some days I could take off for clarity. You saying that I could earn 200 up to $225 a day for 7 days?
Yes, to be a judge.
Well,
It's anywhere from between 250 and 300 to be
a
a judge,
day.
chief judge per day.
Well, I could be a chief, bro, because I already did it.
Well, you have to be trained again. Even though
I'm
you've done
willing to
it,
be trained, man. Listen, I could
you've
buy me a
done it.
little scooter. That's almost $2,000. That's $2,100 for working as an electric judge. I buy me one of them little scooters or
Was
something.
knowing you, Monica, is not for the paycheck. It's for the love of doing and helping others.
Hey man, well, I ain't gonna lie, it's for both right now. I need a couple dollars, man. But when you said it, my little ears was like, hey, hold up. I think I just heard him say that I can earn almost 2 grand just participating in the primary election as a judge. So yeah, I might go ahead and fill it out. And I got some days at work I can take off. So I definitely appreciate you. And Michelle says, what's the website? The website is a Baltimore City
Baltimore,
Board of Election.
Baltimore City Board of Elections.gov.
Okay, and Michelle, even in your area, everywhere you guys live at in Maryland, they will need election judges at those sites.
Yeah.
Montgomery County, where my friend Beth lives at down on the Eastern Shore, where my man Jerome live at, everywhere you live, they will need election judges. That's a couple of $1,000 extra that you can have something to do. I already
Well,
made plans with my money.
and keep in mind, different jurisdictions pay different amounts. Montgomery County, which is one of our largest jurisdictions, pays more than Baltimore City.
Really?
Prince George's County, yes, based on where you're located. Now, if you're in Western Maryland, upstate may not pay that much, but location, it's all about location when it comes to the payout for election judges.
Yeah, I'm gonna put my man Brock on with that too. That's my guy. I'm gonna make sure Brock get that information. So I know you can go to the website, but I prefer to just have if I have a link that I can send out
Okay.
to people, they can
We
click on that
will
bad boy
we'll
and
get that
fill it out.
we'll get that to you.
Okay, and I think I'm gonna be election judge. Thank you. And I appreciate you, and I appreciate everybody here. And please pass the word. They need election judges, especially Republican election judges, and get your people to sign up for that. Become a person that can register other people to vote. And I appreciate you guys. It's powerful right now. You turn on that news. We need to get to them polls for real. At this point, I vote for Mickey Mouse for real. Somebody got to get in there and do the job. But anyway, I appreciate you guys and thank you again for tuning in, my man Bobby Pittman. Love you, man. Everybody, thank you. Y'all have a good day, and we will be back again next week, 9 a.m. Inshallah, God willing. See you guys then. Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Appreciate you,
Everybody
brother.
has a blessed day. Get out of here.
We inspire greatness at track number 9. Stay on the right track and let your light shine. Step by step, reach for what's true. Track number 9, your greatness is waiting for you.